Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk some modern Who. And yes, believe it or not, once again, he came back for a second episode in a row with my partner in time and just longtime friend and father-in-law, sort of, Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
How you doing, Jesse?
I am great, Charles. I really, really loved last week talking Classic Who, but Modern Who is my jam, and I am so ready to talk about this. And I love all our guest companions. They're all unique and wonderful in their own way. But if you push me, the Mistress of Correction is my favorite.
That sounds very vaguely domineering, kind of like the Mistress of Correction.
Oi, spaceman!
So everyone, please welcome back to the podcast, of course, the wonderful, the delightful, and occasionally correcting, Christine Peruski. How you doing, Christine?
Hello!
Hello, everybody! Yay!
I'm just so happy to be here with Charles and Jesse.
Right.
Yes, I know. Christine and I, as we've talked about before, did a Game of Thrones podcast, and she would always. I have horrible pronunciation on, and I will get characters.
Wendy did it too.
And
well,
so,
you are a Texan, so you are playing with a handicap, Jesse.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And boy, today is a dark day in Texas, and if we did a political podcast,
wait, did you guys lose power again?
No, there's all kinds of political things.
No, but I'm sure my wife
I
Lori would love to discuss a Handmaid's Tale podcast with you, Jesse.
Yes, we are the state of Texas one step closer to what's the state? What's the
Gilead, I believe.
Gilead.
Yeah.
We are one step closer to that, and they also passed like some of the most restrictive voting rules possible this week. It is just like not, and so perfect time to talk Donna Noble.
On moving out of state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am.
You have
voting.
49 more choices to choose
There
from.
you go.
There
Yes.
you go.
I am absolutely staying here to fight. So, yes.
Okay.
But Donna Noble is the perfect cure for what ails you.
Well, that's a perfect segue,
They
right?
need to actually send Donna to Texas. She'll straighten this all right out.
Absolutely.
We can only hope, right?
Yes.
We'll send Catherine Tate down there on a special rescue mission for Texas. All right, so like Jesse said, we're talking Donna Noble, so we're talking here at episode 241. We're discussing, and I can't believe it took us so long to get to this, The Runaway Bride, the 2006 Christmas special, written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Euros Lyn, who is a very notable director from Russell T. Davies' era. Directed, The End of the World, The Girl in the Fireplace, maybe you heard of that one, Science and Library, Forest of the Dead, another two-parter we still haven't talked about yet, The End of Time, David Tennant's final story, we have not. And also the great, my favorite season of Torchwood, Season 3, Series 3, Children of Earth, he also directed that. So, pretty solid resume.
This guy is top notch, definitely.
Yeah, he's got a little something. He's as they say here, the sports station talks about they've got a big old bag of nothing, or he's got a little something in his bag, and this guy's got a little something in his bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think this guy's going to go places. I think I have a good feeling about him.
I do too.
All right. Then starring, of course, David Tennant as the 10th Doctor in his second Christmas special. Guest cast, well, hey, Catherine Tate. Maybe you've heard of her making her debut as Donna Noble, but not as a companion yet. Before we get into the rest of the guest cast, I did want to get everybody's thoughts about this story. Jesse, you mentioned that you hadn't watched this one in a while. So why don't we start with you and just give us your general reactions to watching this after, I'm guessing, a couple of years, maybe?
Yeah, easy. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa.
Or culpa. Take your pick.
My son, as often says, that he was young and dumb. And all I can say is, when Donna first came as a companion, I did not like her. I did not like her at all. I do not like green eggs and Sam. And I went through that whole, going through binging, never liked her. And then every time we go back and revisit a episode, I go, well, that was funny. And that was good. And so to see her origin story, I go, your mind wasn't in the right place. You were not used to a companion that's kind of more funny and in the comedy. And so you just did not, your palate wasn't adjusted. And I just adored her performance, the story. It's just great. And I did not have the courage when Catherine Tate was in Dragon Con to say, I used to really not like you, but I came around. I figured that was
you probably weren't the first one that said
but,
that.
She was absolutely wonderful in line. She's great. We got pictures. She did selfies and I just was so happy, just everything about this. And so I'm excited to talk about it.
Excellent. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of meeting her as well, so I get it. And so do you think your experience of meeting her kind of made you reevaluate, or have you already reevaluated Donna before then?
No, it's you and I watching episodes and talking about them. And all of a sudden, when you watch an episode and you have to discuss it, you watch it a little more, actively. You're not a passive. And I also just thinking, now that we've seen classic Who episodes and we've seen the different kind of companions, you get what they're trying to do. You understand, because I remember reading Russell T Davies' books, and he's talking about what a brilliant comedian actress she was, and I was like, I don't get it that much. I really did not like her. And when we've gone back and seen her, whether it's Turn Left or the Wasp,
Unicorn and Wasp, yeah,
whatever it is, I'd be like, she is freaking brilliant, and they are golden together. You talk about great chemistry. You talk about a beautiful doctor companion. It's just wonderful. So that's why because of us watching this, is how I grew to like her. And then, of course, meeting her in person just kind of puts it on top, over the top.
There you go. All right. Can argue with that. Yeah. And Christine, so I want to bring you in on this, obviously. I want to get your thoughts. Yes. Well, that is kind of why you're here, right?
Oh.
So why don't you share your love of Donna Noble?
So watching
she is your favorite companion, as I recall.
She is my favorite companion. Absolutely my favorite. I mean, look at my face. Look at my face. Is my face bothered? Do I look bothered?
Am I bothered? Am I bothered? Yeah.
I was not familiar with her at all before this episode, and I was watching it for this review, rewatching, and I'm like, I had to have disliked her, right? Because, she's very antagonistic, and let's face it, guys, she's a Karen.
Yeah.
She is a Karen.
She's a little bit of a cow in this one, yes.
Yes.
But I'm watching it trying to, stir up memories of I must have hated her, and I'm like, I don't. She is great, and everything about her that I probably should have disliked, I understood. And I could get into that more when we actually get, into the topics, but she was just so fun. And I think my favorite part about this whole episode is she was so not impressed with him. so
Yes.
nice. She was like, we just spent 2 seasons of this teenage girl being completely enamored of this way older guy, and like, you know, it's just, I came into Doctor Who with the modern era, and it already felt off to me. I never liked that. And so here's this woman who's taken none of his crap.
Yeah.
Who, like, is not impressed, is not going to just sit here and be awed by his fast talk and confidence. Like, she could see through it. That she had so much more intelligence just to be able to question it and contradict him. And I was like, this is so fun. I love it.
Yeah.
This is a balance. This is
I absolutely.
I love this episode.
Yeah.
I
So,
love it.
you know, for me, you know, but when they first announced that Catherine Tate was going to be a companion as Donna Noble, I think probably, you know, like a lot of people, was a little concerned because, you know, Donna in this one, like you said, she's, let's face it, like you said, a Karen. She's a little too obnoxious in this one. And
a little shrill.
Well, you
Yeah.
know, just abrasive. How's that?
Yes.
She's a little
Yeah,
abrasive.
I like that.
Okay, so as a result, you know, we were very nervous, and then, you know, when we got Partners in Crime, her debut as an official companion, we were all pleasantly surprised. It's like, wow, this is great. I can actually see this dynamic working. And so, yeah, I mean, this episode, you know, it showed us a little bit of potential here. There's moments like, and like we're going to talk about this, but like when they're on the rooftop, and after Donna's initial, you know, tirade, you know, being ripped right out of her wedding, which is understandable. Granted, I understand why she would be a little bit upset about that. So, you know, but once everything calms down and, you know, she's there on the rooftop talking with the 10th Doctor, you can kind of see that dynamic, especially since you know by now, here in 2021, how it plays out. So, you know, this is a great way to kind of, you know, see the beginnings of this. And it's a credit to Catherine Tate that, you know, and also Russell T Davies, the writer, you know, the showrunner, that I think he reinvented Donna a little bit as a companion, toned her down a little bit, but still kept that kind of, that contentious relationship. So that, you know, when, speaking as a classic fan, you know, a lot of us older fans were, you know, not really digging the whole, like you said, Christine, Rose being so enamored of the Doctor, crushing on him, and here's this much older cosmic being, this Time Lord, with this high school girl, and it really didn't. It seemed, yeah, just a bit creepy, and especially to have the companion just fawning all over the Doctor, whereas Donna doesn't do that. She's much more like a classic era companion that, especially certain ones like Tikhon Jovanka from the 5th Doctor era, who doesn't buy the Doctor's BS. You know, he can talk his gobbledygook. He can just go through all his little, you know, spaceman mannerisms and whatnot and eccentricities. But Donna doesn't really have time for that. She doesn't, you know, she's not impressed. And because of that, it was such, after Rose and then Martha, to bring Donna in, I think it was a much more refreshing change to get back to more of a traditional companion that a lot of fans like me grew up with.
Yeah, and Charles, I think that's perfectly part of the reason why originally I didn't like her, because, well, why aren't you impressed with the Doctor? Mm-hmm. Everyone's impressed with the Doctor, you know, and to come across that. But once you, and I do agree, hindsight, right, helps, that you see where you're going, you see what kind of companion she's going to be, and to see her introduction, and you're perfectly right, Karen is the perfect example of, you know, one of the things we'll talk about, I'm sure, is that
hashtag Karen Noble.
She has no awareness of anything outside of her sphere. She is the star of her own movie.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Daleks in the air. Yeah, I was in Mexico, or, you know, whatever, you know, it just is hilarious.
I was scuba diving.
Yeah, exactly.
She was hungover, you know, like,
right.
Hungover,
this one.
scuba diving. That big picture, you just keep missing it.
Yeah. Exactly. And we'll talk about that, obviously. So guest cast, in addition to Catherine Tate, we had Sarah Parish as the Empress of the Racnoss. Arachnid, Racnoss, get it. And I guess she's kind of notable because she was on Broadchurch as the character Cat Athwood. So, but apart from that, she's done a lot of just more British television, so I don't think a lot of us really are familiar with that, unless there's anything else that I'm missing here. So I thought I'd mention that.
So Charles,
yes.
This is connected, even though it's off.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to Starbucks to get a coffee this morning, and I have a TARDIS backpack is where I bring my workout clothes. And the lady working the drive-thru said, "Is that your backpack or is that a kid's backpack?" I go, "It's mine." She goes, "I just love Doctor Who." And she goes, "And you know what? I'm just starting with Broadchurch. Like, BBC only has like 5 actors, and they're all in the same shows."
Yes, that is true.
And so since you mentioned her being in Broadchurch, I thought it was appropriate to bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a very interesting, you could play a nice little drinking game and I'm sure Christine would approve of this. When you watch Broadchurch and you and a Doctor Who actor comes on, you finish your drink. Just saying.
Finish your drink?
Finish your drink.
Are you trying to kill someone?
Yes, I am. But that's neither here nor there, right? All right. We also had Don Gillette as Lance Bennett. Yeah, shakes fist at Lance on this one. He's done some assorted voices for the Sandman Audible series, so I thought that was kind of cool. We get the first and last appearance of Howard Atfield as Jeff Noble, Donna's dad. And we get the debut, of course, of Jacqueline King as Sylvia Noble in this one, who obviously goes on to play a much larger role as a
second in a long line of horrible mothers to companions.
Yes, yeah. No, actually, I would say the third, after Rose's mom and Martha's mom.
Yes, but she was introduced second.
True, but she's not a companion yet. So I put her third.
Yes,
I put her third. That's up for debate.
That's philosophical.
That's up for debate, though. That's all right. So, Christine, I know you have some notes. Sorry to interrupt you hugging your puppy.
Few. Very few notes.
Very few. But I was wondering if you had any trivia you wanted to talk about.
I don't have any trivia for this episode.
Okay. All right.
Oh, well, although not really trivia, but I decided to look up this whole Thames flood barrier thing because I was looking at it in this episode. And I'm like, how is that a flood barrier? How does that work? So there's massive things you see spaced out across the Thames, and they apparently lift up a wall when they need to block the water from coming in. And I think that's fascinating, and I really would like to see like a video, or actually I'd really like to be there and see that happen, but that probably doesn't happen very often.
Well, I've been there twice, and it never happened either time. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's videos out there.
Yeah.
I found images, and that was pretty cool.
Well, I think we'd all like to see the Racnoss get flushed down the drain, right? We're all for that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so trivia. This episode marks the first occasion since Doctor Who's return in 2005 that the Doctor's home planet of Gallifrey is officially identified by name. So this was the first mention of Gallifrey in the modern era. So I thought that was I remember, after watching series 1 and 2, a lot of older fans like myself were like, well, when are they going to mention Gallifrey? The Doctor just refers to his home planet.
Rose never heard the name Gallifrey?
Nope.
Wow.
Did you realize that, Charles? Like when you were watching this special, did you go, "Oh yes"?
Yeah, that was a big deal back then. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, they mentioned Gallifrey!" And so it was a whole thing. But yes, so it's kind of a little interesting trivia, I think. Russell T Davies had the idea for this episode from the very beginning of his association with the program. He planned originally to air it in Series 2, but with the public announcement of 2 Christmas specials, because they announced both the 2005 and the 2006 Christmas specials at the same time. And the private knowledge that Billie Piper was leaving the show at the end of Series 2, Davies decided to elevate the story to the Christmas special, not introducing the new companion immediately, and he filled the slot that was vacated in Series 2 with Tooth and Claw. So originally this was going to go in like the second episode of Series 2 until it got bumped back to the Christmas special after. And Tooth and Claw, meanwhile, was bumped up from episode 6 to episode 2 in the order. And for legal reasons, if you're wondering about all those banknotes that were flying out of the ATM machine after the doctor kind of whammied it with the sonic screwdriver, the production team made obviously fake banknotes for the scene where the money comes flying out of the ATM. The 10-pound notes feature the doctor's face, and it actually features the doctor's face from the Christmas Invasion, where he's wearing Christopher Eccleston's jacket, by the way. Because I've seen one of those 10-pound notes at the museum, the history museum that's at Trafalgar Square. I can't remember the name. Natural History Museum or whatever. The Museum of Women. Can't remember the name of it. But yeah, they actually had a section there, and I got to see one of those notes there, which is, I have a picture of it.
Now I have to go back and watch it and see if I can actually notice, because I just assumed they were fake.
I don't think you can see it on screen.
Whenever you see something like that in a movie or TV show, I just assume they're fake.
Right. But
like, all right, everybody, empty your wallets. We need some props here.
Yeah, exactly. But they put Tennant's face on it, and then they also attached the phrases, "I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of 10 satsumas." It's a nice reference to Christmas Invasion. And also it had "No second chances. I'm that sort of a man" on there. There were also...
Did he have both hands on it?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Great question.
Yeah. But this is a fighting hand. Yeah, exactly. And there were also 20-pound notes featuring producer Phil Collinson. These had the phrase, "There's no point in being grown up if you can't be a little childish," sometimes printed on them, which misquotes the line originally spoken by Tom Baker in his first story, Robot, which was, "There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes." It's one of my all-time favorite quotes from Doctor Who.
Oh, great quote.
Line.
Yeah. I kind of identify with that one. Go figure. Due to her extremely busy schedule, Catherine Tate was unable to be present for the script read-through. As a favor, her part was read by David Tennant's then-girlfriend, Sophia Miles, who, of course, played Madame de Pompadour in The Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh, nice.
Because those two hooked up after that episode, because their chemistry was just fire. And then he dumped her for another blonde, pretty blonde, for,
yes.
They ended up marrying and having a whole litter of kids.
You could make an argument he has a type.
Yeah, he does, a little bit. Yeah, slightly. Blonde and attractive. Go figure.
At least he didn't hook up with Billie Piper.
No. But probably the selling point, I'm guessing, was, well, hey, you're the daughter of Peter Davison, one of my doctors. So go figure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole nother discussion. But a deleted scene showed the Doctor, Donna, and Lance cramming themselves into a very small smart car to get to H.R. Clemens, which in the scene that was deleted, it featured also David Tennant.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
H.C. Clemens, I believe.
H.R. Clemens, isn't it?
You mean Human Resources?
Oh, I'm sorry, H.C. Clemens. Yes. My mistake.
There it is. Jesse, I thought I'd give you a little of the mistress of correction tonight.
There you go. All right. See, she's living up to her title, guys. But this the scene featured David Tennant's parents, his sister-in-law, and his two nieces as extras in the background, but they got cut. So, but they're probably on the Blu-ray, right? The DVD. So, all right. So we have 3 topics today, and topic number 1, unless anybody wants to add anything before we get started, let's talk Doctor of the Bride, which of course is my little cutesy play on Father of the Bride. This, of course, is the 10th Doctor meeting Donna Noble for the very first time. And it's a little contentious, shall we say. So, Christine, since you're our wonderful special guest companion this time, why don't we start with you first and share your thoughts about how these two crazy kids met for the very first time on Doctor Who.
Well, they're both in a very bad place. As we've discussed, Donna, she got yanked out of her wedding. Already, everybody's familiar with the word bridezilla. And there's no question that Donna would be a bridezilla.
A little bit.
But, honestly, if you think about it, if you put a lot of time and effort into organizing an event, and finally the day has arrived, and it's just getting going, and, all the work you put into it, and then suddenly you get literally teleported away from it, and you cannot get back to it. I mean, I thought about it. I was like, is there any worse behavior than what you see from Donna there? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I'd be much more horrible to watch in a situation like this, because instead of being angry and demanding, I'd just be this blubbering mess on the floor. All nothing ever goes right. Why can't anything go right in my life? That nobody wants to see that. I'd much rather watch Donna's reaction. And yeah. And on top of that, we have the Doctor, who is literally moments away from his last time ever seeing Rose. He just lost Rose. Yes, it's been a while for the viewers since seeing that, but this happened right after that discussion on the beach where he got cut off before he could say, I love you. So he's not in a good place. She's not in a good place. And then suddenly this totally unexpected, nobody could plan for this scenario situation happens, and it just explodes all over the TARDIS. And honestly, I think this is the most brilliant result of something that could have been rather bloody. And I think they're both just doing their best in a horrible situation, and it makes for wonderful chemistry. Unfortunately, Donna does not get to do the traditional "it's bigger on the inside" bit, because she starts on the inside.
Yeah,
and then suddenly she gets outside. It's like, what? Huh? What? Yeah. Like that whole, we just skipped right over that with this. She did the circling, and then she decided she was done. I'm done with this. I'm out.
Well, she probably thought okay, I'm in a room somewhere. I don't know where I am. And then she's raining at the doctor. She's raining at the doctor, and then she opens the TARDIS doors to go outside.
And they're in space.
And they're in space, and that's what really snaps her out of that. And she's kind of takes a breath and gasps.
Mm-hmm. But when he gets her at least to, I believe, London, very unclear about where specifically. And then she turns around, and there isn't a big spaceship sitting behind her. There's a little blue box.
Oxford Street, by the way.
It's very jarring.
Yes.
And honestly, everything that's happened to her up to that point is probably just too much. Just too much.
Yeah.
And we're moving on. You know what? I'm done with this. I'm going back to where things make sense. I am a powerful, independent woman, and I can get myself back to the church.
And then they struggle to get back to the church, as it turns out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's getting married on Christmas Eve. People might think that is odd, but if you're paying attention, somebody else was getting married on Christmas Eve too, because the vicar was on the phone with the police saying that he's got one wedding coming in and another refusing to leave. And yes, he does think it's a police matter.
Well, apparently she was also, the doctor asked her about it, and she, I guess, she hates Christmas. So
I feel that.
So she thought that she'd just go ahead and get married and then head off on her honeymoon to.
I'd be all about that if it wasn't for the bad weather during the wedding.
Morocco, weren't they going to Morocco?
Morocco.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Right.
But apparently they're having rather balmy weather because she's got no sleeves, and she doesn't seem to be complaining about the cold.
No.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
And he does give her jacket, which apparently wouldn't fit a rat. They're skinny.
Well, the funny thing is they filmed this in July.
Well,
And
of course.
And apparently, so it was like really hot there when they filmed this. They were like sweltering. And it's supposed to be Christmas time. So.
I gotta love it.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
just makes sense to film the opposite of the season it's supposed to be. The doctor's always wearing the same thing, but honestly, there should have been some frost. There should have been people in scarves. There's probably worse people in scarves. I wasn't really paying attention.
Yeah.
But it's England. There was probably snow around that time. It may not have been snowing, but.
Yeah, but you like their chemistry, though. You thought they hit it off right off the bat.
They're great. I want to watch other things that they're in together. I think I did. I can't remember what else I watched that they were in together or wanted to watch, but those two together are just brilliant, and I would love to see them in everything.
There you go. Jesse, how about you? What was your take on the Doctor meeting Donna Noble for the very first time?
So, there's often this thing where you've got to say something whether it fits or not. Hearing Christine talk about my now have modern love, get me to the church on time. Church on time.
You can't go wrong with David Bowie. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm all about Bowie, so.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about this is normally the Doctor is 2 or 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And it feels like in this, he's trying to catch up to Donna.
Yeah.
I mean, and because he's like, why did this person show up in my TARDIS? What's going on? What's special about her? Why is she in a wedding dress? Why is she yelling at me? Why is she calling me from Mars? I mean, and that's an unusual.
I'm not from Mars.
I'm not.
Yeah. And there is that where that's unusual to see the Doctor trying to play catch up, and to see that is just really enjoyable, and to see that, and I agree with you. Their chemistry is amazing, and I think part of this is we know where, as we're rewatching this, we know where it's going to come, and we also know that. If she had her way, she would have never stopped traveling with the Doctor.
Yes.
Even though at the end of this episode, nope, not. But then you later she regrets it, and she's wanting to do that. It's just wonderful to see them together. The banter about, what do you mean you don't have any money? And when you're designing,
don't steal my
wedding
quote.
dress,
Don't steal my quote.
Yeah, and the back and forth, and it's just you kind of have a madcap comedy of at the beginning, and this whole Ted Lasso a couple episodes ago did
Take a
wonderful
drink.
parody.
Jesse, that's Ted Lasso.
Yeah, they did a wonderful parody of romantic
Is that
comedies.
A new one? A new drink?
Yeah, and it's my latest obsession, and they parody that whole where you're trying to get on a journey, you're trying to get somewhere, and everything's stopping you behind, and so they're running into that, and then you transition to a wonderful villain, and you get the reveal of the groom being a jerk. It is a. I love Christmas specials that are about Christmas. Those are like you and I talk about. We love all the ones that are set like in Dickinson, and and the retelling of a lot of Matt Smith's Christmas specials. But this is a great standalone episode. It just and I really admire the fact that when he had the opportunity to go to Catherine Tate and go, hey, would you want to come back? Would you want to do this? You're right. They get it in and they roll, and they are Abbott and Costello. They're, just whatever comedian.
A great comedy duo. Yeah.
Yeah. They are just an amazing that you do not expect a Doctor Who episode to have that, but it's amazing together. So I loved watching them.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up great points, because for my reaction, to Donna and the Doctor meeting here, I really like the fact that Donna, and I think you touched on this a little bit too, Christine, that the Doctor has a hard time keeping up with Donna. Essentially, when Donna arrives, she's this tornado inside the TARDIS. She's just this whirling dervish of energy and chaos, and all the Doctor can do is just stand around going, what, over and over again.
Mm.
And, even when they get back to Earth, he's still trying to figure things out. He's still not sure what's up with her. And, he expects her to kind of be like his other companions, hey, listen to me a little bit and do what I say. But Donna's always off doing her own thing. Like when the Doctor's trying to get money out of the ATM, here's Donna already jumping in a cab with one of the robo-form Santas driving off. And she's like, see ya. And, he's just standing around like, what just happened? Yeah, exactly. So I like the fact that, she completely upends his world. His whole,
Well, he also forgets that she didn't sign up for this.
Right.
This happened to her.
Yeah. And so, he approaches things of like, hey, there's questions here, and I want to investigate. This is the things I like, trying to figure things out and be clever and all that and fight monsters and be, the hero. And Donna just has no patience for that. She's just like, look, I got ripped out of my wedding. I need to get back to my wedding like right now. And I don't even know where I am. So, it makes for like you said, Jesse, a great comedic pairing where these two, completely diametric personalities bounce off each other. And because, Donna isn't, certainly not like in the Rose or Martha vein, she doesn't react exactly how the Doctor wants her to, which makes for very interesting television, let's face it, because she's very unpredictable. And, there's moments where she surprises you, even right off the bat, like when they get back to their reception, and we'll talk about this, where she fakes crying just to get everybody to shut up and gives a little wink to the Doctor. So, there's a little bit more to her, and maybe it's one of those things that I think probably made her interesting to the Doctor later on. So, I love the pairing of these two. There's a great moment where, they get out on the freeway and, where Donna has gotten in the cab, like I said, and she's locked in the cab. She can't get out. And the Doctor, does something, and I think this is one of Russell T Davies' ideas he's always wanted to do, was have the TARDIS actually flying along the motorway. So, which, normally it just goes from place to place and doesn't actually fly. And as we find out, it doesn't fly very well. It's a time machine. It's kind of like, it's one place.
Not very aerodynamic.
No, let's face it.
It's kind of blocky.
Well, it spins around, kind of like a top a little bit. It's like kind of like a flying top through, going through the air. And as a result, the Doctor's struggling to keep the TARDIS, flying somehow, and also try to rescue Donna from that cab. And, there's a great moment where, he has to encourage her to jump. And, she has to literally take a leap of faith with him. That I thought it was just a great bonding moment for those two.
I agree.
Any other thoughts about these, this meeting?
We like to talk a lot about how she yells at him and contradicts him and doesn't take any of his crap. But there's also the calmer moments, like the
rooftop,
one where
the rooftop, yeah.
The rooftop, and also right there on the motorway where he wants her to trust him, and
I don't know how calm that was, but
yeah, but like she wasn't. It was a connection, a true connection there, and she questions him is that what you told her? The girl you lost, did she trust you? Yes, and she's alive. And so, I mean, it was a true moment between them, like where she wasn't just trying to focus on herself and achieve something. She needed to know more about him.
Mm-hmm.
Really needed some truth out of him, and there was this wonderful connection. And I think that is what really balances their relationship together.
Yeah. So let me ask a question. Let me ask a follow-up question to that then, because you bring up a great point here. So do you think, Donna, that leap of faith, for just to kind of shorten the, description, do you think it made Donna, do you think that was the moment that Donna really connected with the doctor?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was.
That they really bonded over that
Mm-hmm.
moment? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I think
You
that
agree,
was
Jesse?
the first moment that
I do.
the relationship became just a little bit more, more than just we're stuck in this situation together and I'm going to scream at you.
Yeah.
Rather loudly, I might add. Yes. All right. So, Jesse, do you have any other thoughts about the 10th Doctor meeting Donna? How these two got together?
I'm resisting quoting the Springsteen song "Leap of Faith,"
Mm-hmm.
which actually has a line that said, "You
Take another
shouted,
drink.
you shouted jump, but my heart faltered."
Yeah.
And you laughed and said, "Baby, you don't understand." No, I just think.
So I guess you didn't resist very hard on that one.
I didn't.
I don't know why he tries.
Yes. It was, it was really, really perfect. And I do agree that moment. And, another thing that this is a consistent plot in Modern Who. The Doctor does not do well by himself. You need a companion. And over again, he is told that. And sometimes he listens and sometimes he doesn't. Or sometimes she doesn't listen. But I love that consistency that we are, and this is pretty early into the role, right? We just changed, that this is.
We're just now going in, after this episode, we only go into Tennant's second season as the Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to have that, very early and continue, you should not travel alone. You need someone. I just think is a very satisfying comment because it explains so much of why there is the companion and why the Doctor does end up picking up strays.
Right. Well, I think it's mostly this Doctor in particular needs somebody to be with him. Because, and we'll talk about this when we get to our third topic, that, Donna kind of foreshadows a little bit of the Time Lord Victorious, I think. So we'll get there. Don't worry. We got lots more to talk about. Don't worry. So anything else? If not, let's go to topic number 2 in the topic title I like to call Santa Claus is Coming to Kill. And this I want to talk about, obviously, the Roboform Santas, who kind of make their return after turning up in the Christmas Invasion. And let's also talk about Donna's reception, because Donna is none too pleased to find out that they had the reception without me.
Yes, I see.
Yes.
Yes.
And doesn't go over well initially. So, Jesse, I'll start with you first on this one.
So one of the things that Linda and I, when we got married on June 2nd, and the church had a wedding at 11. So Linda said, okay, we'll get married at 9 in the morning. And the joke was we wanted to know who our true friends were. The reality was I had said I didn't want to be 25 and not married, and I turned 25 on June 3rd, and so she would not let the wedding go past June 2nd.
Nice.
Just kind of, and so
That's a great anecdote.
So when we're getting married, and we go off for our honeymoon, and we call to let her parents know, and Linda's like, they are having a bash. Like they brought the keg over to her mom's house, and they had all the extra food, and they were just having this huge party without us. So I felt a little bit for Donna, like, what, you had it without me? Like, well, hey, you're talking about you think you're in Earth and you're crazy, and so it did seem a little callous that she disappears. And like, well, the heck with it. Let's just have a party anyway.
Yeah. Well, can I interject a moment? Because,
sure, please.
Because as I recall, you were at my wedding, Jesse.
Yes, I was.
So as I recall, after Lori and I went off on tour for our honeymoon, you guys went back to the Skaggs pad.
Yes, we
did.
And
hung out and had a pretty good time, as I recall.
We did.
Wow.
We had a very lovely time.
So
Absolutely.
you had that without us.
Your reception had an after party.
Yes, we did. We went back to Charles and Lori's house, and we did have an after party. God, that was a good wedding. It was so much fun.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was. And I love the fact that when the doctor sees the Santa masks, and he ding ding ding, oh, yep. Wait a minute,
I remember those things from last year.
Yeah, that was a great scene, and that was wonderful. And of course,
the pilot fish.
Yeah, and Donna, often in error but never in doubt, right, was a phrase I remember reading once in a book. And she, she's off. She may be mistaken, but she's never without confidence. And she's just going away. She's, taking everything, borrowing a $5. I'll pay the rest. She's just going, not paying any attention. Like, hey, you missed the turn. And just, I love her brashness and her confidence, and it is a wonderfully creepy villain, the robot with the Santa mask. It was just so perfect to see again.
All right. And Christine, how about you? What was your thoughts on the roboform Santas, or you throw in Donna's reception once they finally get there?
Well, one would assume that there wasn't another reception coming in afterwards, so they could have waited. But I have absolutely no problem with them still having the reception. I mean, it's all paid for, right, Neris? And
yeah, that was their argument. Like, well, we already paid for this, so might as well have it.
Yeah, but I'm like, here you are having a great time, even though Donna's still missing, and
not really being upset that she's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta know what exactly has Donna done in her past where this is like the established attitude. It's one of her, oh, look at me party pieces. Like, what did she do before? Because obviously, if she's not that impressed with her daughter literally vanishing before her eyes.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to see her past tricks. I really do, because they must be really impressive, and so and happens so often that she's no longer impressed by them. It was a bit in poor taste to have
slightly,
reception. To be so far into it, like they were like
they're just booking on the dance floor, like, hey, Donna who,
Yeah. And I missed Wilf. I realized that they had to do that because,
they hadn't actually connected those characters, because Wilf actually wasn't really brought in as Donna's grandfather until the guy that played Jeff Noble, Donna's dad, died. And
exactly.
Wolf was his replacement character.
Right.
So Davies went back and said, okay, let's get this guy, and then revealed that, oh yeah, it's the same guy from the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah, and that's really great.
Or Voyage of the Damned. I forget which one he was in, right?
It is kind of sad to see the way, and you understand a little bit more, not to read too much pop psychology, but you understand Donna a little bit more when you see the way her mom is and the way that her father is kind of is not kind of overrun by his wife and Donna's mom. So you see a little bit, and you feel a little bit sorry for Donna, that it is kind of weird that it isn't as if she got a call and said, hey, I got cold feet, I decided this wasn't the guy I wanted to marry, and so there's another. They really don't know what's going on from her, and this, as you talked about, well, Christine, what has she done in the past for them to think about that and treat it with such frivolous that, she's left, she's not knowing, and we're just not going to worry about it.
The only thing I could think of is that, remember Donna made this comment that, it's Nerys getting me back. So presumably
yes,
Donna
Nerys is getting me back.
Maybe Nerys, played, like, Donna played pranks or something with Nerys, and so
I think Nerys
everybody just thought that this was just Donna playing another prank, maybe.
Mm. I mean,
okay,
Nerys was dancing with Lance at the reception when she showed up, so I think there was something going on there.
Oh, I'm sure there was, considering what we found out about Lance. I would,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was, getting a little something on the side there.
So I do have minor issues with this episode. Now, they established that these are the same Robo Santas or whatever from the previous Christmas special, but those were working with a totally different alien race. Mm-hmm. So how are they now working with the Racnoss? And are they just like robots for hire? I need this explained.
We don't get those details, do we?
We wanted a call back, and we still have these costumes. Okay, I get that. Now give me an actual reason for it. It didn't seem to make sense to me.
Well, the Santa thing worked out great the first time. We totally fooled everybody. Let's do it again.
Yeah, but now you're definitely not going to fool anybody. I mean, obviously they wanted something that would be immediately recognizable to the Doctor, so he would know right away that Donna was in danger. But it probably wouldn't have taken that much effort to explain why these are here again with a totally different main villain.
Yeah. It's like, weren't you just the pilot fish last time, and now you're doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
And how did you make that transition? Is what you're saying?
I guess they got left there and were looking for work.
Could be.
And
times are hard for alien henchmen.
Absolutely. And once again, the reason why Christine is greatness is now that I can say this robot's for hire, even if we're just dancing in the street for Christmas. So once again, I can throw in a badly mangled Springsteen line.
Yeah.
You mentioned robots for hire, and I'm immediately thinking of that. No, I think that's a really good nitpick. I was okay with it because they're such a fun villain. But yeah, I think a really, really good point.
Yeah. And obviously the Doctor takes... Yeah, it was a good point. I agree. So the Doctor takes care, obviously, the roboforms by amping up the sound system to 11. And, that's all taken care of, only to find out, well, hey, they're being controlled from space. Space. Yeah, exactly. So, any other thoughts about the reception? The Doctor... the other thing I was thinking of is the Doctor, he's still moping about Rose. So, he sees the blonde with long hair, and he's all like, Rose!
It reminded me of the first episode of Angel.
It's like, man, get over it.
Actually,
she was like a high school girl.
And one of the last episodes, too.
Yeah.
Same situation, too. Some high school blonde chick and a way too old for her guy.
A mortal guy, a very long-lived guy, yeah. And you see how well that worked.
A recurring theme in storytelling.
And you see how well that worked out. Well, we know that Russell T Davies was inspired by Buffy.
Good point. Yeah.
Because Buffy was one of the inspirations for bringing Doctor Who back. And so, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the Doctor and Rose was based, at least loosely, on Buffy and Angel.
Oh, is that why number 10 here was very broody at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
God, I hate the
Maybe
brooding.
so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so over the brooding.
Yeah, so now you can make comparisons between the Master and the Mayor from season 3 on Buffy.
Your favorite villain, as is mine.
Exactly. The Mayor is the best villain on Buffy, and I will
miss
fight.
the Mayor.
And I will
I
fight.
just want to be a big
I will
snake.
fight anybody who says otherwise.
The Mayor is just so lovable and cuddly, you know?
When he's not, especially when he's eating spiders. Nom nom
Yeah,
nom nom nom
so
nom.
not a discussion for this show, but, I do love the Mayor.
Yeah. Well, spiders. Hey, that's how we connected to this episode because Racnoss.
Okay, yeah, sure.
There you go.
It's not thin at all. Not at all thin.
It's our podcast. Jesse's on. We can do whatever we want. So we'll go there. All right. Anything else about this topic before we move on, guys?
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Topic number 3. This is I took a little pride on this title. I made Christine laugh on this one. So, topic number 3, Spider Mom, Far From Home. So, we're going to talk about the Empress of the Racnoss, of course, our big bad of the episode, played by Sarah Parish. And let's talk about that horrible Lance. The way Lance. Yeah, so let's talk about the way he totally led Donna on, was going to go all the way, even to the length of marrying her just to follow through on the Empress and his plan to load her up with Huon particles so that the Empress could get her babies hatched. So, Christine, I'll start with you on this one. Who do you want to rant about first, the Empress or Lance?
All right, here's what I'm going to be honest with you. I did not really care for the Empress. She was a little over the top, although
a little bit, yeah.
Although for some reason I really felt she reminded me a lot of the Borg Queen from First Contact, which I really loved, the Borg Queen. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why I'm making that comparison. Yeah, I don't know why I'm making the comparison, but I don't know. I think she was just a little too campy in her presentation. I'm sure that's what they were going for, but yeah.
Not the Borg Queen, the Borg Queen wasn't campy, I don't think.
No, the Borg Queen is not campy at all.
Yeah.
But the Racnoss was just, she's already like is it a spider? Was it a scorpion? Oh, the scorpion's a different episode, right?
Yeah.
It's related, but not. So this one's a spider. And so
Russell
T.
Davies loves animal monsters, in case you hadn't made that connection. True. Yeah.
I mean, she's already pretty campy, just being what she is, and the fact that somehow this relates to Santa robots. We've already got enough camp there. The last thing I needed was for her to act campy. Mm-hmm. However, I do like that she seemed very knowledgeable of human just like culture. She knew knock jokes. She knew that you say I do at a wedding. And she seemed to get the parlance, which is rare with aliens in Doctor Who. Right. Usually they're alien. So
she was working with Lance, so maybe Lance kind of clued her in on some things.
I was a little vague as to, what their relationship had been up to that point. I don't even understand why he would have been sneaking up behind her with an axe, because it looked like he was serious about it until she turned around and looked at him. And,
and then they start laughing about it.
Yeah, and almost like there was a little bit of mind control that happened right when she turned around and saw him. But then, the rapport they seemed to have. I'm like, okay, so why was he sneaking up behind her with an axe?
Maybe he's just goofing around.
Was he just making a joke? Because,
I think that was it, just to kind of give Donna false hope.
That's it. That's it, exactly.
To pay her back for the whole having to go through the wedding fiasco thing, because he so obviously was not on board with that.
Yeah, he has this deep loathing of Donna. He goes out on this big rant about all her, all the little things that drive him nuts.
Yeah, Atkins and all the other things.
Yeah. Don't you steal my quote, Jesse.
Pringle.
I won't say your quote.
All right.
Absolutely. I really like the villain. I think it was interesting. She was a little over the top, but fun. But once again, this is another reoccurring theme of the Doctor trying to say, if you choose the right path, I will find you a planet. I will find you a place where you can have your children.
I know you love that. You love that the Doctor gives them the second chance to.
I do love that.
I know you got an evil plan, but I want you to bail on that evil plan.
Yeah.
So, here's the offer, and if you don't,
just hear me out for a second. Hear me out.
Yeah. Just here.
Sales pitch.
Yeah. Let's just think about it for a minute, And so I love seeing that again, because every time he does that, I really appreciate that. And then, but it is almost like this is the Doctor's justification. Like, I gave them a chance, and now that they turned it down, I can pedal to the metal, can be as vicious as I want to be.
Right. So essentially, what you're saying is, like, okay, I'll give her this option, and then okay, if she doesn't take it, then I can really screw her over.
Then the gloves are off.
Yeah, the gloves are off. Yep. Exactly.
We're throwing down. That's it.
Yeah, yep. and so just the Lance is a perfect name too. Just Lance, and just deliciously, evil. And I also kind of think of the, Bullwinkle and Rocky, right? That trick never works. Like, It never works when you try to sync up. Like, I'll be a partner with an alien and it's going to work out really well for me. No, it won't. So that was really nice to see. So I was glad to see him get his, and it did make me even sadder for Donna. Like, the first time I watched this, I don't think that affected me as much as this time. And I think because I was more on the Donna camp, and the more embracing her manic, the way she's doing this, I felt for her so much that, because she, in her mind, she was going to get married. This was true love. Now, she had, in her mind, she had changed the story where he pursued her versus she pursued him, but it still was heartbreaking for her.
Yeah. All right. So, one thing I definitely want to talk about before we, wrap things up, I definitely want to talk about the big moment where, like Jesse was talking about, the Doctor gives the Empress of the Racnoss that final chance. So she doesn't take him up on it. And so he follows through on his plan, which turns out to be blowing holes in the tunnel with these bombs, letting water from the Thames River rush in, and essentially
flushing the spider down.
Flushing the spider, like, it swirls around like a toilet bowl, and they flush it down through the center of the Earth. Now, question is, why doesn't all the magma come up from the center of the Earth? I don't know, but it's Doctor Who.
Because it's all been like a lie. There's never actually been magma. Well, we saw it was at the center of the Earth. Magma. We went back in time, and it's just this star spaceship thing.
Right. Yeah.
No magma.
Yeah, we found out. Yeah, the Earth was apparently formed around a Racnoss spaceship back in the day. That's how it formed. But
probably any exploration that found magma down there, was just the ship shooting at them.
So all the pyroviles. Remember the pyroviles from the fires of Pompeii? There's nothing going on there with them.
No,
maybe. Okay.
No. Yeah. That was just a little pocket, right below the crust.
There you go. So my question is, I'm sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I really liked that sequence of going back in time, because earlier she had said, I wish that was a time machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, he kind of plays with that. And then when he talks about that, and now then we're going to see that. So I thought it was very cool to see that, going back and watching the Earth being built, and the idea that this was the center. I thought that was a nice little tribute.
So I want to get everybody's thoughts about like the Time Lord victorious moment where the doctor, like he had just flushed the Racnoss kids down the drain, and he's standing there, the water's kind of coming down over him, and he's looking all like dark, ominous doctor, the all Time Lord victorious. So what did everybody make of that moment? Did it startle you to see him like that?
Honestly,
all wrathful
I'm surprised
God
we
kind of
don't
thing?
see it more often. I mean, all of the experience he has, and the fact that these aliens should know him by now and should know not to mess with him, and they, even when he gives them an opportunity to achieve their goals without doing harm to other people, like, honestly, life has made me bitter. He's lived a lot longer and a lot rougher, so I'm surprised we don't see these moments more often.
Okay.
And everybody constantly forgets this. The doctor is an alien. He's not human. He doesn't have humanity because he's not human. So the tendency to slide toward this behavior is built into his DNA. And, I'm okay with it coming out every once in a while. We need that reminder that this isn't just some really smart human guy with a lot of toys, like Batman.
So you didn't see it as immoral then?
He's not human. They don't. I mean, shoot, compare him to the other Time Lords that we meet down the road. He's way more moral than they are.
Yeah. Jesse, how about you? I'm sure you got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I wish this is an interesting thought to do, and I would have to do a little bit more in our Doctor Who laboratory, but the stages of grief, right? You could make the argument that Eccleston is one stage of grief, Tennant is another stage of grief, and then Smith is another stage of grief, and anger and bargaining is one of the stages of grief, and that's very much the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
I believe that would be 2 stages of grief.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Googling it very quick. There's 7 stages of grief according to Wikipedia.
So Matt Smith would be acceptance then.
Yeah, and so anyway, I think that's interesting. I had not caught that scene, but now then when you think about it, I absolutely agree with you that it is very, very a sign of what's to come.
A portent
for this doctor. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, especially now that we know about the Time Lord Victorious.
Yes.
In the waters of Mars. So I mean, this is the first glimpse of it, and it's one of the things because Donna sees this. Donna sees that look, that powerful dark Time Lord, what could be, and she's a little intimidated by it, a little scared by it, and that's why she makes this comment to him later on when all is said and done, and the doctor returns Donna home, and after he's like, "Oh, hey, I'll try and cheer you up by making it snow." She tells him, look, you need somebody to travel with you because sometimes you need somebody to stop you from what you're doing.
Yes.
What'd you think of that comment? Fair? I'd say so.
Very insightful, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And I love any time that someone brings that. Don't travel alone, doctor. You need, River talks about that. Always, and but you do not do well by yourself. I remember Bob Costas had a interview show, and he had Billy Bob Thornton on there, and Costas asked, why do you work so much? And Billy Bob Thornton says, I am not someone who does well with idle time. And that's why he worked so much and did that. And I think the doctor does not do well with time alone. Yeah. He needs that companion to keep him busy, to keep him doing things, to keep impressing them and keep, showing
off. Yeah.
Showing off. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
And also to restrain him. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's nice to take around a companion and be reminded of the joy of experiencing those things for the first time.
Right.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, it's
And that is why I
you get a new
enjoy
puppy or
rewatching
something.
stuff with someone who hasn't seen the thing before. You know, I like to see their reaction to give me that thrill of the first time again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know, you kind of summed up this podcast perfectly, because that's kind of what I like to do here, because I'm a, you know, grizzled old Doctor Who vet. So, you know, I kind of been around the block when it comes to Doctor Who. So I get to look at things through fresh eyes when I talk to people like you, Christine, or Jesse.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes, I get it. I mean, I get that too. The whole experience of like, hey, you know, you may not see things as fresh, but if you look through somebody else's perspective, them experiencing for the first time, maybe you'll kind of see something maybe new about it or approach it differently.
So deep.
I know, right? We're getting way too philosophical for this silly little podcast.
It's a TV show. Move on.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So anything else about this story that we didn't cover, anybody wants to talk about?
No.
I can't think of anything.
All right.
I mean, I have some quotes.
Well, then let's get right to that then, shall we? Let's shall. All right. So, Christine, since you have some quotes.
I have some quotes.
Why don't you share your quotes for us, if you will?
All right. So I'm going to start with the best. This is my favorite.
Go for it.
As a woman, I totally relate to this. I'm in my wedding dress. It doesn't have pockets. Who has pockets? Have you ever seen a bride with pockets? When I went to my fitting, it says Allison. The one thing I've got to say was, give me pockets!
Yes. That is, I love that line. Yes.
Excellent.
Well done.
Well, nice reading.
Thank you.
Nice reading.
Good.
All right. Any more you want to share?
I thought we could go around.
All right. Well, all right. We'll go around. Jesse, how about you?
All
Why
right.
don't you give us a
So, to follow up perfectly is Donna goes, "What did you do?" And the doctor, "Guess what I've got, Donna?" And he pulls out the large remote device. Pockets. How did they fit in there? They're bigger on the inside.
Yeah, exactly.
I just went, yes.
They're dimensionally transcendental pockets, and you know that's kind of one thing that, and I'm going to go back old school fan, but Tom Baker used to do that. Like he had this big coat, and he would just keep pulling stuff out of his coat pocket, and you're like, there's no way that could fit in there. So it's a perfect explanation. Time Lord pockets, Gallifreyan pockets, they're bigger on the inside.
Stuff like that. You know, Mary Poppins, Hermione's handbag of holding.
Right. Just pull out this boop, or, you know, like Jack Nicholson's gun in Batman 89, where he pulls out a big gun out of his pants.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
I'm fairly certain that was going down his leg, but you know.
Yeah, hey.
You got one, Charles?
Oh, yeah, I've got plenty. Yes, of course.
Okay.
So let's see. Let's go with, I'll start with the Doctor and Donna, where the Doctor says, "Question is, what did camouflage robot mercenaries want with you? And how did you get inside the TARDIS? I don't know. What's your job?" Donna replies, "I'm a secretary." The Doctor replies, "Weird. I mean, you're not special. You're not powerful. You're not connected. You're not clever. You're not important." And Donna looks at him for a moment and she says, "This friend of yours, just before she left, did she punch you in the face?"
I agree.
That.
Yes.
I think that would have been justified, right?
Yes, absolutely. You're not special. Yeah. What do you mean?
All right, Christine, what's your next one?
Let's see. What are you dressed like that for? I'm going 10-pin bowling. What do you think, Dumbo?
Excellent.
Yes.
10-pin bowling.
All right. And Jesse, how about you? Any others?
My last one, and this proves that they are Abbott and Costello, is, where am I? Mandy, tell me right now, where am I? Inside the TARDIS. The what? The TARDIS. The what? The TARDIS. The what? It's called the TARDIS. That's not even a proper word. You're just saying things.
Yeah. That's a great line.
I love how she doesn't say that's a made-up word, because then I would have to follow up with a Thor line that says all words are made up.
Yes.
Which is also true.
But I just love that. That's not even a proper word. You're just saying things.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, perfect.
And Catherine Tate totally sells it in that line. Delivery.
She sells every line.
She does. Speaking of Catherine Tate, one of my next quotes is Donna saying to Lance, "But we were getting married. And Lance replies, well, love, I couldn't risk you running off. I had to say yes, and then I was stuck with a woman who thinks the height of excitement is a new flavored Pringle. Oh, I had to sit there and listen to all that yap, yap, yap. Oh, Brad and Angelina, Ish Posh Pregnant, X Factor, Atkins Diet, Feng Shui, Split Ends, Text Me, Text Me, Text Me. Dear God, the never-ending fountain of fat, stupid trivia. I deserve a medal.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you deserve a medal for almost destroying the Earth with your the Empress's space babies. So
Yes.
It is an impressive list, though.
yeah.
And I totally buy that list.
All right. Any other quotes?
Let's see. The doctor, who are you getting married to? Are you sure he's human? He's not a bit overweight with a zip around his forehead, is he?
Nice.
I missed that one. That was
Nice,
great.
nice little nod to the Slitheen.
The Slitheen,
Yeah,
yes.
nice. All right, and I'll do one more.
Okay.
Donna and the doctor. This is from their final scene together. Promise me one thing, though, doctor. The doctor replies, what's that? Donna says, that you'll find somebody. The doctor replies, I don't need anybody. Donna says, yes, you do. Because I think sometimes you need somebody to stop you. Ooh.
Very insightful.
Ooh,
Very insightful.
yeah.
You're right.
But it's a great
I have-
quote.
I had one more quote that
Okay,
was
go for it.
slightly
We'll
referencing
end on that
something
one.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more. What? There's like a secret base hidden underneath a major London landmark.
Yeah, because that never happens on Doctor Who, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
another thing that
Like, oh,
is-
hey, the Tower of
Yeah.
London? Just saying.
yeah, Donna is smarter than you originally think she is.
Mm.
Yeah,
She
people
comes
underestimate
across-
her, yeah.
I think they underestimate her a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because that her interests are pretty shallow. She
Right.
has shallow interests. That does not mean she's not intelligent.
Right.
Exactly, and once again, I think that's the brilliant of Tate's performance is she plays that shallowness, but she also there is some intelligence. If she had an interest in doing that, she could do well, and to have the insightfulness of not you don't do well alone. The idea of seeing sometimes someone needs to stop you is damn insightful for someone just to
Somebody
that
you
had-
just
had
met.
this-
Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really well done.
Yeah, I respect that.
I
All
do
right,
too.
what's everybody's ratings? Jesse, I'll start with you first.
Well, I love this one, and I'm going to give it a high rating. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10
Ooh.
camouflaged robot mercenaries.
Excellent.
I just love that line. I
Yep.
just think it's greatness, and this is so much fun, and maybe because with all that's going on, I needed a fun Doctor Who episode, but at this mind, I'm like 9 out of 10. This is just greatness.
Well, you can't go wrong. When things are bad, go put on a Doctor Who. You'll feel better.
Absolutely.
All right. Christine, how about you? What's your rating?
I give it 9 out of 10 dancing doctors waiting for the ATM.
Ooh. Excellent.
And
Well-
that is a great scene, right? Like he's like, "Come on, come on!"
Yeah.
And he bounces back and forth.
All impatient. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to probably blow up the
You're gonna mess up the curve.
I'm
yeah?
going to mess up the curve just a little bit, but yeah, I'm going to keep us from being unanimous on this one. Sorry, kids, but I'm going to go slightly lower. I was going to go an 8.5 out of 10. Far too slow segues. Because here they
Very
are,
nice.
like, oh, we're now in this base, and we need to find out what happens. Oh, we're just riding these little segues.
Yes.
Down.
That was a great scene. Absolutely.
So I'm sure that'll age well in about 50 years. Just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the obscurity of the segue makes it funnier.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too. Yeah.
All right. Just reverse the polarity. We're only reversing the polarity this time. So really quickly, I recommend if you enjoyed The Runaway Bride, how about checking out from the classic era, Planet of the Spiders. Gee, I wonder what the connection is here, right?
Is there a wedding?
No, but there is a death. So, like a very important death, actually. So, Planet of the Spires, fifth serial from season 11 in 1973, written by Robert Sloman. And this features, this is John Pertwee's final story as the Third Doctor. And the blue crystal that the Third Doctor took from Metebelis III in a previous story, The Green Death, is desperately sought by the Eight Legs, a race of mutated spiders, kind of like the Racnoss. So that's a connection. And, as their element for their plan of universal domination, go figure. And with the help of the Kanpo Rinpoche, an elderly Time Lord and one-time hermit mentor of the Doctor, who now serves as an abbot in a Tibetan meditation center in rural England, the Doctor realizes that the only way to follow the plot is to make the ultimate sacrifice. Despite pleading from his companion, Sarah Jane Smith, the Doctor heads to the cave of the Great One with the crystal. He warns her that the danger of completing the lattice, but she does so anyway. However, the forces unleashed are too strong for the Great One, and the feedback kills her and the other spiders, while a vast wave of deadly radiation floods the cave, including the Doctor. The Doctor, now very weak, staggers back to the TARDIS and it dematerializes. 3 weeks later, the TARDIS rematerializes at unit headquarters, and the Doctor finally returns. Upon exiting the TARDIS, he collapses on the floor in front of Sarah Jane Smith and the Brigadier. The Kanpo materializes at that moment in a projection in his new body, having regenerated into the form of the Deputy Abbot, Choji, who was a temporal projection of the Kanpo's future self. Everybody got that? He tells them, well, you have to watch the story. It's better explained there than it is in just a quick paragraph. But he tells them that the Doctor will change too, and before their eyes, the Doctor regenerates into his erratic fourth incarnation, played by Tom Baker. Woo! So that's my recommendation. It's a great story. It's a six-parter, but it's a classic. And if nothing else,
and if you talk about it, Jesse will complain about pacing.
Yes,
absolutely. I will. I probably will. Yes,
you will. Especially when they devote an entire episode to like a big, which like one of the 6 episodes is like this big long chase scene throughout.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But no wedding.
But it's actually a pretty good chase scene. No wedding, sad to say. But
I'm just not seeing the connection.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So listener feedback. We do have 2.
Hi, Holly.
Yeah, well, hi, Holly, and also hi, Dave.
Ha! Called it.
Yep.
Yes.
So our 2 regulars writing in once again. So, Jesse, do you want to read one while I read the other?
Yeah, I'll read Dave's.
Okay.
I have it up.
Read them both at once.
Go for it.
I guess we could both read them.
Yeah, I think that might get a little confusing for the
irritate our listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello,
I'm
TARDIS.
irritating enough as it is, so, yeah.
Hello, TARDIS crew, and welcome back, Jesse. It is good to hear your voice along with Charles's on another adventure. Thank you, David. David Tennant and Catherine Tate. How can this not be great? Honestly, I wasn't a fan of Donna at first, but got to really adore her in review of her episodes.
Seems to be a trend.
Yes, it is. The story feels like a foot race. It runs in a panic to the point right before they meet the giant spider. Bad person of the story, Racnoss? Never heard of them, but the Doctor has a long history of spider problems.
Like
well said. Yes. The special effects were pretty good and held up well. It's a pretty good standalone story, 9 out of 10 ATMs giving out free cash. However, I was wondering, this is the second hole in the center of the Earth after Dalek invasion of the Earth. How does one go about filling such a hole?
Right.
The volume is ridiculous. Perhaps the drop of all the wrecked spacecrafts fill the hole. Dave Proctor. Dave, thank you for the kind words. It is really good to be back. And I agree with you. It is, once you determine the Catherine Tate's greatness, it is hard to not see that.
Yeah, I'd like to say that there's, just like you have the Doctor that goes around saving people, saving the universe, you probably have another Time Lord out there called the Janitor that goes around and cleans up little messes like this.
Oh my God! I want to see the series of fanfic now.
Yes,
exactly, right.
That would be great.
That's a YouTube series waiting to happen. I'm
See,
just saying.
now
and
I'm
I will
thinking
write that.
I'm thinking about the little tag at the end of a Community episode, their second paintball thing, where Abed's talking to the janitor about the glorious paintball fight they had, and he's like, did you see what we did in the library? No, I haven't gotten there yet. Oh, sorry.
So you mentioned Community. I thought you were going to bring up Inspector Spacetime.
Oh no. I mean, I can see where you would go that way, but I was thinking about the janitor, not the doctor.
Right.
Yes.
Although I love me some Inspector Spacetime. I'm just saying.
Yes, I do too. Absolutely.
All right.
And Reggie.
And Reggie. Yeah, exactly. Well, I forgot about Reggie. All right. Holly also writes in. Holly Mack. So, hi, Holly. Writes in. Hey, all. Hey, Holly. What can I say about this episode? We get our first introduction of Donna Noble, and when I first saw when it aired, I wasn't too big of a fan of hers until the very end of the episode when she helps the Doctor from going Time Lord victorious over the Racnoss.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was nice to see how much her character grew over time off screen when she returned in Series 4. Back to the Runaway Bride, this still holds up and has rewatchability. The TARDIS car chase is still something that gets me to this day. Yeah, it was pretty innovative. Definitely didn't see anything like that in the classic era. You could feel for Donna near the end of the episode when she finds out that she was just a pawn to help the Racnoss fulfill her plans. Donna only pawn in game of life. Blazing Saddles quote.
A very vulnerable side at that point. We didn't talk about her actually crying, you know?
No, we didn't.
But, I mean, she fake cries in the episode, but she also truly cries.
Right. Well, I mean, she just
had
had
a
her
range of emotion from her.
She just the guy who she was going to marry and devote her life to, turned out to be a complete dick. And oh yeah, I'm working with an alien that's going to help destroy your planet. So
yeah.
That takes a little getting over, right?
I agree.
Holly also adds. She also gives the Doctor some good advice that he shouldn't travel alone. I also think that the Doctor was going to take Donna along, but realized that she just wasn't quite ready to travel with him yet. All in all, a great Christmas special episode. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. Thank you, Holly.
Yay.
Thank you, Holly.
And thank you, Dave. Always great to hear from Dave as well. So if you want to be like the cool kids, Holly and Dave, and you do, write to us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. We may have to change that here shortly, Jesse.
Yes, there are discussions you and I need to have.
Yeah,
yes.
we'll talk more probably next episode about this.
Yes, absolutely.
And also you can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg. I'm going to have to change that as well. On Twitter, Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. We don't have to change that one. And Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. Don't have to change that one either.
Yeah.
So we'll just we'll leave it there for now.
I feel like there are things that are going to get talked about in the future. I mean, this is almost as gossipy as who's the next Doctor going to be.
Well, hey, since you brought that up,
yes.
Well, so any thoughts about that, Christine? Since you haven't been on since the announcement.
Well, I mean, I think they've run through the whole 5 actors the BBC has, so I'm really confused.
Well, maybe they got 6. You never know.
I don't have anybody in mind, but I have, generalized thoughts. I'm worried. I hate to use this word, but I feel like it would be politically wrong of them to go back to a male at this point. I feel like all those people who hated Jodie simply because she's a woman,
right?
I feel like if they went back to a male, they'd be like, see, it didn't work out, so now you're not going to do it again. And,
Well, what if it was a male of color?
Oh, yeah. So that was my thing. First off,
which I think it will be. I think it will be, personally.
I don't care if it's man. I don't care if it's woman. I don't care if they're trans. I mean, hell, do it. And honestly, I think it's time to bring in a person of color.
Yeah, I do.
The only thing I care about, they better be a ginger. I don't care if they're not even a natural ginger. I don't care if they're dyeing it. I want a ginger.
Okay.
I don't care if it looks bad on them.
Yes.
We've been promised a ginger.
Put a wig on them.
Yes. That's all I care about. You could do anything else. Although I think the
That's
entire United Kingdom would be upset if they didn't choose someone from the United Kingdom.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, there's been talk. We talked about this last time. I think that J. Michael Straczynski from Babylon 5 and Sense8 fame, threw his hat in the ring.
Wait, he did Sense8? No
Yes,
wonder
he did.
it was so good.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
I'm just upset that
which
it
also
didn't
featured
last more
Freeman
than
Asiaman from Doctor Who. I
Yes,
She
I
did,
remember
yes.
that.
Right. So, but that's a whole different discussion because that's the showrunner as opposed to the lead actor as the Doctor. So, the question is, I personally think, to keep the UK feel, it should be at least somebody from the UK because we've had English people before, we've had Scottish people before,
Right.
so maybe I don't know if it's time for a Welshman, perhaps, but
Oh, I don't know, man. That's stepping out of line.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But
They had their time in Torchwood.
you could go.
Well,
you could go Northern Ireland, perhaps.
Yes, I would
That's
love
the UK,
an Irish,
technically.
Yeah. I know that, and also to follow up, Straczynski has said on Twitter that he had talked to the right people at the BBC, and they thanked him for and they had already were in discussions with going through their process, and they certainly would include him. So it sounds like they may have already reached out to someone to say, hey, are you interested in doing this?
So there was some speculation about J. Michael Straczynski being the showrunner.
Yes.
What had happened is he actually went on Twitter and said, does anyone have a connection at BBC? And someone like, why aren't you bothering Neil Gaiman? And he goes, because Neil's doing something else that I don't want to bother him about except that one thing.
Yeah.
And
and
they
he's doing
said
Sandman, so
Yeah, and they said there's no way that they're going to hire someone who wasn't from the UK. And he said, I'm ready for that. I know what I'm getting into. I would have not thrown my hat in the ring if I hadn't. So,
and then he said there were discussions after that.
Yeah.
So we're like, ooh, discussions.
Hey, I'm on board with this, but I'm also not from the UK. So what weight does my opinion have?
And as we talked about last time, in fact, we did this on. Charles wasn't there, but we did a Southgate Media roundtable, and we were talking about this. And there were a couple people, the other podcast hosts, had never watched Doctor Who, like Phil Parish, and he said, JMS is writing it. I'm in. He said, and so our discussion, and Charles and I talked about this last time, that I think you would gain some audience because he has a very good reputation. I agree with you. I think going back, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to watch the show regardless. If they find another good-looking young white guy to be the Doctor, I'm going to give him a chance. But I do think to be interesting, you should go with another female or perhaps, a person of color. I think would be interesting.
Both.
Or both.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My personal money is on a male of color. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna stake my bet there for right now.
I'm just thinking about the montage of the Timeless Child and the genders and races we saw that child go through.
Right.
I'm like, why aren't we seeing it now? Where was that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'd like to see. That's what I think the Doctor should be.
Right. And I know a lot of the fans were just they freaked out initially when Michelle Gomez became the Master, and then they freaked out when Sacha Dhawan became the Master.
Right.
So but that sets the groundwork. It's like, look, the Time Lord. That's the thing. The Doctor could be anyone.
I think the Doctor.
So it can't just be just white guys.
For too long,
Yeah.
and that's what influenced the changes through the next 10, 12, whatever.
Yeah.
And finally, the Doctor's getting out of the 60s.
Right.
Well, and I think that as Peter David has talked about often, the Star Trek writer and the comic book writer, fans don't always know what they want. And they don't want you to change till they complain that it's not changing enough. And then when they say they want change, then they not complain. The reality is, I think you need to find a really strong showrunner with a really strong writing team, and then, it all starts with the written word. And I know that's a cliche, but the reality is that's what makes a great Doctor Who, and is when the stories are outstanding. So yeah, I it's curious to see, and I'm ready for all the speculation, the joy, and the excitement of getting a new Doctor.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a while. We have, and I'm going to enjoy every episode that Jodie does, because I have loved her as the Doctor. But it is always exciting, because that is the nature of this show. You get a new Doctor at a routine, every so often, and that is the joy of the show.
Yeah, we probably won't find out who the new Doctor is until 2022.
Yeah.
But
Jesse, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are you seeing this craziness happening with Charles here?
Yes, I am. I was wondering,
What?
is Charles added? Yes, you are doing.
You are basically going through the montage of the Timeless Child changes right now.
What do you mean?
Like your face is split diagonally
Yeah,
and changing
Well,
colors.
no, I'm thinking of things. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how we're going to segue to wrap this up.
Oh yeah, it's just crazy. You're also split in two, because like part of you is just frozen in this one position, but there's a second head.
It's like you pushed a button that said blur the background of Skype.
I did nothing.
You hit the Disco Charles button.
Okay.
Yeah, you look like the composite Superman at any given moment.
Cool.
Where he clips
Well, how about
on.
if I just go to this side, or
Well, that is on this side. You are fine. It's on the other side.
okay, so I got to go over here.
So
it's craziness.
Okay.
I will jump to get us back in the go, and now you
Okay.
seem to be. Christine, if someone wants to reach you, what is the best way?
To hop in the TARDIS and travel to next summer, because I am starting school next week. I am going to school 4 days a week and working the other 3 days. I have not figured out when to schedule sleep, so
Sleep's overrated.
reaching me is going to be fun. Hopefully, if you follow me on Facebook, like my Facebook page, Christine Peruski, maybe you'll get to see what I am doing in class. I'm going to try and post some stuff there. If a miracle happens and keeping up with 5 classes worth of homework and 30 hours of work does not eat up every second of my time, just maybe, I might dive in for a podcast here and there.
Yay.
I don't know.
You're always welcome.
There was a 2-parter that was mentioned earlier in the conversation that has not been done yet, and my jaw hit the floor. I want in on that.
Well, I just want to say that episode 250 is coming up.
Yes.
What episode are we on right now?
This is 241.
Oh man, I don't know. I think that's too close.
Well, we'll see.
Thinking a holiday or something.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll play it by ear, but if nothing else, for you, hopefully you can squeeze us in between semesters.
Yes.
Yes.
Always.
And so
Squeeze
keep
an
your eye
episode
out.
here and there.
Keep your eye on my Facebook page. I really only share podcasts on Twitter, which is @C_Peruski. But keep an eye on that too.
There you go.
And that's pretty much it.
All right. Good. Jesse, how about you? Where can they find you when you're not sneaking in Bruce Springsteen references here on Next Stop Everywhere?
Yes, I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me. September is the 6th anniversary of Set Listing Bruce. We will always be a year behind Next Stop Everywhere, no matter what.
That's right.
So
we came first, baby.
That's exactly right. And I always tell that story when I'm guest on another podcast. I talk about that, how Rob and them recruited me, and then you and I
me
together. Yeah. So anyway, Set Listing Bruce is doing his 6th anniversary. Have some very fun episodes coming up for September. Then I am doing a special Ted Lasso, Take a Drink, Patreon-only episodes for the Southgate Media's Patreon page, where Tom Zoller, who has been on this podcast, and David Miller, who has been on Next Stop on the How Many podcast, we go through Ted Lasso. Right now we're doing it 3 episodes at a time to kind of talk about that. And you can hear me on How Many, where a bunch of buddies of mine get together and discuss. I am trying to figure out how I can join the fun in talking about Titans.
Yeah.
Because I miss my 2 brothers. But I don't get to.
You know where to find Titans Tower, Jesse. I'm just saying.
No, we need to do that.
You know, those 2 are playing my role in that podcast because, you know, while I'm pointing out things that you didn't realize that are loopholes here, I listen to their podcast and they tell me things that just don't make sense in Titans. I'm like, you're right. That doesn't make any sense.
That's what we do.
And I know I know you're busy, but I know you have to be missing talking Stargirl too. Because
definitely. It's been really good this season. I've been enjoying it.
And so we may have to do a special kind of mid-season wrap-up or something. And
well, we can always figure that out. We can always. I'm definitely open to that because I definitely enjoy, especially when they start bringing in JSA members. I'm all about that.
Yes, and coming up in a couple weeks, I'm going to join. Speaking of Nick and Zan, I'm going to be talking The Apartment on their Oscar podcast. So one of my favorite movies. And so, Charles, when you are not keeping me in line and being my brother in time, you do a couple other podcasts too, don't you?
1 or 2, you know, when I got some co-hosts at least.
Yes.
It's sad to say. But yeah, as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here at Next Stop Everywhere. Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish audios, and more. And all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, the aforementioned Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do with DJ Nick. And hopefully Jesse Jackson once in a while. You're always welcome, Jesse. You know where to find us. And
Absolutely.
We miss you on that podcast. But yeah, right now we're going through Titans season 3. And as Christine said, we're kind of finding out, pointing out the little plot holes in things because that show just does not make sense sometimes. It makes no damn sense sometimes.
I hate to say it, but that's why I like Marvel better.
Well, that's why you need to be watching Doom Patrol. And we'll talk about that because that's coming up soon.
watching Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol's fantastic, and they just released the trailer for that today, which was fantastic. So can't wait to talk Doom Patrol. But in the meantime, we're talking Titans. And then also, unfortunately, my co-host on Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast and Drunk Cinema, Zan Sprouse, still recovering from her gallbladder surgery that she had recently. So, Zan, I want to continue to express my thoughts. We miss you. We miss you terribly.
So much.
Yes,
we miss
we
you
do.
so much.
Christine expressed how much she misses Zan on Drunk Cinema.
Specifically Drunk Zan.
Right? Drunk
Yes.
Zan. We all miss Drunk Zan.
And I know she should definitely not be drinking right now.
But,
Yes.
But unfortunately, life is hitting her pretty nastily from all directions these days. She recently lost her cat, Jess Bell, and, she's going through trying to recover from gallbladder surgery, and, just life in general is kind of beating her up right now. So she's having a little bit of a rough go of it, but hopefully she'll be back soon, and I miss her terribly. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners do too. So just be patient with us. Hopefully Zan will be back when she's ready. I don't want to push her, but I do miss her. And I hope she returns soon to everybody. So, Zan, our thoughts are with you. Other than that, guys, thank you so much. Christine, I want to thank you for being so awesome, as always, here on the podcast.
Well, I had to get one last podcast out before I disappear for a year.
Well, we appreciate it. And, hopefully we'll try to smuggle you back in whenever we can. But obviously this takes priority, so we understand that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we're going to miss you in the meantime. So
Absolutely. And Charles, where
yes.
does TARDIS go in 2 weeks?
Well, in 2 weeks, we are going to be returning. We're going
Down
back to
the motorway.
Yeah, we're going back to the classic era as Dave Proctor is returning to Next Stop Everywhere for episode 242 as he and I and Jesse are going to be discussing Kinda from the Peter Davison era. And this is from Peter Davison's first season where we travel to the alien planet Diva Loca and companion Tegan Jovanka ends up falling asleep only to have her dreams invaded by a powerful alien force known as the Mara.
I hate when that happens.
I know.
Who's like a big giant snake alien. And Jesse, this is probably the advantage if you have the Blu-ray, you can watch the improved special effects.
Okay.
Because the snake monster's kind of rubbish.
I will do BritBox, and I will be working on my Ricky Martin quotes because of Viva La Loca is what it sounds
Living
like.
Viva Loca. Yeah.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Exactly. But this is a great psychological thriller kind of one. And I dig it. I dig it a lot. So hopefully Dave likes it, and hopefully Jesse likes it. So that's what we're going to be doing in 2 weeks. Jesse, thank you. Any final thoughts you want to share before we sign off?
Once again, it is so good to be back in the TARDIS. I appreciate all the good thoughts and love sent my way. It is, as we talked a little bit before, I'm 3 months post surgery, doing well physically and going well, and so I really appreciate all the support and love. And Christine, I am so glad I got to spend time with you because you are truly one of my favorite people. The times we talked Game of Thrones was always a blast, and we're hoping that once you graduate and there's a sequel, the prequels, that we're going to be able to get the Small Council Matters together.
Absolutely. I look forward to that too. I am so glad to be back with you, Jesse.
Thank you. Very good. And Charles, I am so glad you got a new member of the family. We didn't get to talk this last time, but
two new members of the family.
And I saw photos, and they're adorable, and I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, I got my new kittens, Desire and Delirium. Yes, they're named after Sandman, and they're adorable. Delirium has heterochromia eyes. So she has like one eye, one color, one eye, the other color. And Desire is a nice, adorably cute black kitty.
Perfect.
It's been hard since Keiko passed, but this has definitely helped. August, I was really glad to say goodbye to August, needless to say.
Absolutely, yes. But
now we're going forward, have to go forward. And it's just, it's great to have a couple of fun little kittens in the house, causing all kinds of havoc.
Yay.
And Lori and I are very happy. So thanks everybody who expressed their condolences about Keiko, and hopefully, we see more of the kittens in photos soon. So in the meantime, Christine, thank you again. Jesse, thank you again. Everybody else come back. Episode 242 of Next Stop Everywhere. Dave Proctor's going to be here. Jesse's going to be here. And yours truly, like it or not, is going to be here as we talk Kinda right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
And turn down your volume right now.